right now. Paul Alaje, the senior economist at SPM Professionals, is joining me right now at the table. Welcome, Paul, and thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you so very much.
Now, let's get started because, you know, for those that have been seeing the show for quite a while, we've been talking about issues of poverty and all of that. In fact, when the news broke, that was in 2017, when I saw that report initially from World Poverty Clock, I did a one-week series on poverty to tell our people that this is what those people had said, that by February 2018 will become the world's poverty capital. So I did a one-week series then. But I was surprised that the government coming in last year to say, you know, perhaps because this other guys, I think Brookings Institution, adopted what WPC had said. So it was like breaking news again. I was like, there's no breaking news about it. But what I want to say in essence is that this poverty question is still there. Whether we like it or not, the rest of the world thinks, at least even if we are denying it, the rest of the world thinks that we're the world's headquarter of the poverty headquarter of the world. How do you think, or what bothers you the most really about this poverty question?
Well, what bothers me the most about poverty question is how dynamic poverty is in Nigeria. While most people think that once you earn $1.90, you are not longer part of extremely poor. And when you look at that figure, is a little bit below 700 naira using today's exchange rate. But you see, poverty conversation, while the rest of the world think Nigeria perhaps has over 91 million people that are poor as at June this year, it's because of other indicators beyond using monetary figure. And the figure might be more than that if you look at all these indicators very well. So what are the other things that we use to measure poverty? One of them is access to water supply. Now, 1/3 of Nigerian population, arguably, don't have access to water supply. And I mean piping water and so on and so forth. Apart from that, access to toilets. Now, when it takes you more than 60 seconds from your bedroom to your toilet and to return, you are poor. So access to toilets is very important, apart from $1.90 a day. So we also, and when we talk $1.90 a day, we are talking about either you earn it or you spend it. Because in national income, we say output equals to income, which also equals to expenditure. So whether you earn it or spend it, or you produce an equivalent that gives you monetary income. So apart from that, access to housing. Everybody will sleep somewhere. You either sleep under the bridge, or you sleep in shanties, or you sleep in mud houses, or you sleep in a car, or you sleep in a truck, or you sleep on the road, or you sleep somewhere. So there will be a form of shelter of some sort. But when it comes to housing, there are basic requirements that you must have. A house should have latrine at worst. A house should have kitchen. A house should have space. Not more than one family should share a toilet. But when you have in places buildings with 20 rooms and all of them have to share one toilet, you can't say such people are rich, or you can't say they are living above poverty. So conversation around poverty goes beyond just money. And perhaps that might be some of the reasons why we say that some Nigerians are poor, or up to about 91 million people Nigerians are poor. And also, what are the opportunities we have provided for more people to come out of poverty?
Okay, the other question is, are Nigerians really poor people? You know, because the conversation has always been, oh, India is more populated than we are, 1.3 billion people, about 1.2 billion people. That how can Nigeria, with a population of close to 200 million people, that depends on which side of the divide you are, whether you believe we are 180 million or 190 million or 201 million, according to what was said, I think, was it 2 months ago or so. But the issue is that how can we be more poor, or how can we have poorer people in Nigeria than India? The other conversation is, are Nigerians really poor? When I had a guest, was it last week or so, and we were talking last Friday on the show, he's come up with an interesting research. In fact, even personally, he said he's done his own survey. That you will see those people, by mere looking at them, you think they are poor. That they make a whole lot of money talking about daily income. Like a woman that is selling bully, for example. if you take a survey, like you go to a woman selling barley somewhere here in Abuja, you'll be surprised that her turnover could be close to 10,000 naira a day. So will you call that kind of woman poor? Are Nigerians really poor people?
Thank you. I've just answered that question with my first submission. Nigerians is not using only income. Where does she live? Is it a shanty?
But
does she have access to water supply? Does she have access to toilets?
I heard you, but I am saying, or I want to postulate it this way, that if, for example, a woman that is making 5, 7, 8, 9, 10,000 naira a day as income from her sales is making that kind of money, would you say she's poor, despite if she lives where you are talking about?
She's poor, but she's not extremely poor. She's poor. There is extreme poverty. There is living below poverty line. There are people that are poor. So such person is still poor. How much is 10,000 naira a dollar? Let's even assume that we want to use the money. How much is 10,000 naira?
I don't think it's up to $30.
So when you convert it, how many mouths will she feed? Such women usually are not singles. Maybe they have children. When you divide that among family, how much do they have at the end of the day? Is it up to the amount that we're expecting that the family should feed on? So we're saying that people are poor not just because they, as an individual, don't earn income. A man who earns 30,000 naira minimum wage, but have 4 children and 1 wife or 2 wives, as the case may be. We're talking about a family of 7 here. 1 man, 2 wives, 4 children. 7, and the man earns 30,000, or to be charitable, 36,000. How much is that to the family a day? And how much in dollars? $1,000. Divide that by 7 people. Are they rich or poor? So it is not just the woman selling barley that he is buying from. He should also consider the responsibility of the woman within the household narrative. Because poverty is in the context of household. Poverty is not in the context of individual. So you need to look at the household. How much comes into that household? African is a unique environment. We don't believe, we are always interdependent. More interdependent than so many other continents.
So if you have one person or an individual making, like they say, making money, but there are a lot of dependents. So that makes that person also impoverished somehow.
Exactly.
Because you are catering for a lot of people.
He has no option. He has to
so
cater for them.
From your submission, Nigerians are indeed poor.
Nigerians are poor because the National Bureau of Statistics confirms it. The poverty clock confirms it. Broken report also confirms it. So when we say Nigerians are poor, I've seen a lot of people have similar argument that if you go to villages, those people are farming cassava. My question to that is that how accessible is their cassava in the market? Have we connected? See, there are some macro issues if you want to bring people out of poverty. People themselves are energetic. And one president read that African population are youthful and hardworking. Yes, but the macro solutions we need to provide to connect them to the market. Like we have a lot of people in university and polytechnics today, colleges of education, when they leave schools, are they connected directly to the marketplace? Same with our professors and doctors. How are they, the research work they've done, how are they connected to the marketplace? If we don't connect to the marketplace, they will work individually and they might be poorer, even with knowledge. And you know it's dangerous when you have knowledgeable poor people. It's more disastrous.
Can we analyze that further? Knowledgeable poor people. With the knowledge they have, is there any reason for them to remain poor?
So you can.
Or they can remain poor because the macro environment which you're talking about does not make them included.
Exactly. It does not support. It does not purport their knowledge. So how do you explain a lot of people going abroad to school and they come back to Nigeria and you wonder if people are actually bringing foreign knowledge and exposure to the country at all? How do you explain that? Or you wonder
a BSc holder is riding an Okada, for example.
So you'll be surprised. So there are those, he has the knowledge, but he's underemployed. He has the knowledge, he can add to the economy, but the platforms or the opportunities are not there, basically because macro solutions have not been provided.
Would you say that an underemployed person is a poor person?
Underemployed
not
person.
tricky? Yes.
Underemployed person is not engaged for the particular hours or is not earning certain income that he should earn. So to a large extent, he will be a poor person. So what is the minimum wage required? How much is required in minimum wage? Today is about 30,000 naira that is required. So if somebody
30,000 naira times 12. I did the analysis at the time. 30,000 naira times 12 is 360,000
a year.
A year. So 360,000 is how much? That's like $1,000.
That's about
$1,000.
About $10,000.
Is it $10,000 is 3.6 million naira?
That's about $1,000. Yes, about
so a Nigerian worker, minimum wage earner,
yes,
earns $1,000
in a year. Yes.
I did the analysis.
So do we say the person is rich? So even if he's fully employed, you see, things that make country rich, we are new when China, you're talking about India with Nigeria, and you're shocked. Why are you not talking about China?
China lifted 700 million. But I'm being told that Johnson Chukwu is on the line now. We've been able to connect with him on Skype. Mr. Chukwu, hello and welcome to the program.
My pleasure. Good morning.
Good morning. We've left you. The train has left the station where you were. If our Lagos station, we've left you. We are now in Abuja, perhaps on the way to Borno State. Welcome to the show. We're speaking about poverty. Now, let me ask you this question. Paul has tried to analyze if Nigerians are really poor people. He did say that Nigerians are really poor. We've been analyzing the indices and what have you. But my question to you is that how much of this poverty are we getting from our inflation basket, bearing in mind that Nigerians spend about 3/4 of their earnings on just food? Is that not also impoverishing us the more? Because for me, for example, I know how much I spend on food weekly. And, you know, it's so startling and disturbing that when I go to the marketplace now and I come back, I'm looking for what I bought with the quantity of monies that I went to the market with.
Well, Nancy, you must recognize the fact that where an economy, where people spend so much of their income on food, is an indication of a low-income society. Because
no, Mr. Chukwu, the connection is breaking. I hope we can return back to you over there in Lagos. Paul, do you understand where I took the conversation to? What do you have to say about that? 3/4 of our earnings or of our income spent on food.
Yes, it's saddening because food is not the only thing that it just keeps you moving for the next day. So, but if you spend that and you are not spending substantial part of your income on what gives you the enablement to work and also to improve production, then the economy itself will shrink. And so that is why, if you consider what inflation figure I've been saying, particularly food inflation that remain high, it is cause for worry. I'm not surprised monetary authorities have to intervene in some areas called Anchor's Borrower Program so that they can see how to bring down food inflation by improving supply side of food. And you could see CBN particularly has been championing that over time to see how we can support. So it's worrisome, and I'm sure authorities at different level, particularly federal and state level, are aware of this issue. And government, to a large extent, is doing a lot about it. You've seen a lot of intervention program government claims putting in place to support the poor, the extremely poor people in the country. And if government is running that program, that's another evidence that there are a lot of poor people, particularly extremely poor people, that government wants to target in that regard.
The question right now would be, are we also addressing the issue of poverty with sense?
Okay.
Are we addressing that issue sensibly?
Now, so when you say
I chose my words.
Okay.
With sense.
When you say
sensibly,
we address the issue of poverty sensibly, this will be my response. Follow after those who through diligence have received the promise. There are a number of countries that were really poor, poorer than Nigeria, and I will use 3 countries with more population than Nigeria: China, India, and Indonesia. What did they do? Now, China tried a lot of methods that did not work. One of them was to give money directly to people. It did not work. The population was so much. One of them was maybe because we have large population, our people will work. So they have to promote some policies. One of them is birth control. birth control. Two, China understood that what we engage more people are not farm output. What we engage more people is manufacturing. Countries with high population have no business being primary economy. They have to grow the economy beyond primary to secondary and tertiary. And when you look at the miracle that happened in China, it happened when China became a production hub of the world. Today, China, that you would not give recourse to in the 80s and 90s, became a country that is holding down America. Countries, America, that everybody saw, the United States. The United States have to negotiate with China over economic policy issues, over tariffs. They need to talk to China now because the country has repositioned from what it used to be. Take the similar instance of India. India was known for a country with magical power and Bollywood. Those are the reasons why you talk about India. Today, not the same.
Films.
If you want to talk about countries that is running behind China in terms of production, don't be deceived. You have to go to India. Now, look at Indonesia. Indonesia even brought their output outside their country, are even producing in Nigeria. There are some products, Indo, I won't mention so that I don't pay for advert on their behalf on your station. Now, what do we do as a country? Should we continue to say we farm while the rest of the world will produce for us, and we have cotton farmers who will not be able to afford to buy clothes for themselves? Who are cotton farmers, but their output are not connected to the market? We have a lot of farm output in Benue State, among other areas spread across north-central Nigeria. But these produce, we have excess supply at some point because they are seasonal in nature. The remaining are wasted. Should we continue to do that, or to practice some growth pole of some sort by saying we will deliberately support companies that want to support production within this area? Because they have output, you have both farmers and you have industry connected. And this has to be on the table of several state governors to ensure that their economies, you see, your people are unemployed. They can shout federal government is not giving us job if they like. But the truth is that there are people close to you. You have that responsibility. Establishment of company is not just on exclusive list. State governors can be included. Local government can be included. At the end of the day, what is better for your people? It's going to be to your credit. It's going to be to the credit of the people themselves, of company themselves. Will you negotiate with government so that you have more power supply in your area because you are manufacturing, you have some industry going on in that regards? But when you don't have that, you will not just have poverty of hunger, you will also have poverty of the spirit. Because the people's morale will be down, and the only thing they can think of is to support those who are fomenting trouble, aka banditry, aka kidnapping, etc., etc. And we should watch this. Poverty clock is telling us we have a lot of poor people. What they are telling us is that we have over 91 million dangerous people among us, not because it's their fault, but it's because they have to live. And you know the theory in economics, there's what they call autonomous consumption. Whether you work or not, you have to consume. So people, I hope that kidnapping will not get to a point where 20,000 naira is what they are declaring for ransom. 50,000 naira is what people want for ransom. Anybody they see, they kidnap on the road. It will not make our country safe. I'm happy the government is trying their best possible with military to install peace and sanity, particularly among areas that are affected by poverty and by kidnapping, etc., etc. That does not justify anybody to be a kidnapper because you're poor. The concern of all Nigerians should be, how do we work with our government to ensure more jobs are created, to ensure more entrepreneurs are created, to ensure more environment is created, etc., so that we can live in a country we all can be proud of.
Okay, I would, we'll go on a break shortly, and the question after the break will be, what should be the contribution of states in reducing poverty? Because you see a lot of poor people in states. But meanwhile, when we're talking about fighting poverty, reducing poverty, we look at Mr. President, President Buhari, we look at the central government. Should we focus attention on the 36 states in Nigeria plus Abuja? Because, for example, Akwa Ibom State has the highest unemployment rate, followed by, I think, Rivers, you have Bayelsa in that. So I would allow you to answer that when we come back.